There's a lot of talk about Scandinavia at the moment. Their food is setting the gastronomic world on fire.
It goes back in the fire? Yeah. That's insane.
Nordic noir dramas have us glued to our screens. And Sweden, Norway and Denmark are officially 3 of the happiest countries in the world. I want to find out why.
I can smell it. I can smell it from here.
Is it their connection to nature and their breathtaking landscapes? Their spirit of cooperation?
It's about trust, that we actually do trust each other.
And does the famed dark side of Scandinavia really exist? To crack the Norse code, I'm about to immerse myself in Scandimania. This time I'm in Denmark, the happiest country in the entire world. The restaurant Noma has put Copenhagen on the culinary map, and I'm not going to miss the chance to cook in one of the best restaurants on the planet.
How do I do that with my pudgy, fat fingers?
It seems we're going a bit crazy for all things Danish.
European sperm bank.
Yeah.
We love their style and their crime shows. For a nation of supposedly cheerful souls, they certainly produce some very dark drama. They're renowned for their belief in the common good, but Danes also pay the highest taxes in Europe.
Do you pay more than 50%?
Yes.
Yeah.
From Copenhagen to Samsø, I'll be travelling right across this little country to discover if Danes really are such a happy bunch. I'm starting in the capital city, Copenhagen. Getting from any airport into a big city can often be a nightmare of long queues and expensive taxis. But not for me.
I'm Hugh.
Nice to meet you, Hugh.
Very good to meet you. And this is for me.
That's all you need here.
Little while since I got on one of these.
Okay.
They say you never forget.
Absolutely, it's like riding a bicycle.
Journalist Mikael Andersen has become something of a global ambassador for Copenhagen's famous bicycle culture.
55% of everybody who lives in Copenhagen rides a bike every day.
More than half.
More than half.
Every day?
Yeah, like to work each day.
Copenhagen has a population of just 550,000 people, but it has over 650,000 bikes.
The word cyclist, you know, when you say cyclist in your country, you know, if I say, hey, Hugh, I'm a cyclist, you know, you're gonna...
I think lycra.
Yeah, you're gonna see me in tight man-made fibers. I often say we don't have any cyclists in Copenhagen. We just have a lot of people who happen to get around by bike, you know.
And it does feel as if cyclists, drivers and pedestrians all get along here. But then Denmark is renowned for being a country of cooperation.
By the way,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I've just arrived in Copenhagen.
Recently named the most livable city in the world, there is something of a buzz about the capital of Denmark at the moment. And in the middle of summer, it looks nothing like the rain-drenched, dimly lit city that I know from those Danish TV dramas.
That's Christiansborg. You know it from Borgen.
That's
where
Borgen, of course.
That is, absolutely. That's where the Prime Minister sits.
I'm in the middle of a Danish TV show.
Yeah, basically.
Cheers, Michael.
Take care, man. Bye.
See ya. Well, it's just brilliant. Off the plane, onto the bike, down the road. No taxi, no bus, no train. Without a doubt, the loveliest way to arrive in any capital city.
And the hotel I've arrived at is an icon for one of Denmark's most famous exports. Modern design. The SAS Royal Hotel opened in 1960 and was designed by one of the most famous Danish architects, Arne Jacobsen. His work is typical of the Scandinavian style that became internationally popular in the mid-20th century.
My room here in the hotel is actually furnished with an original 1960s Arne Jacobsen suite. And I must say, I think it's pretty cool. Which is odd, because I remember back in the 1970s, when my parents and their friends were all furnishing their houses with Scandinavian, or probably faux Scandinavian furniture, I thought it was all pretty hideous. But now I'm older and wiser and have much better taste.
Many of the chairs that Jacobsen created for this hotel are still design favourites around the world. Most in demand is the egg chair. An original costs around £5,000, but they're much imitated. Even McDonald's have copied them for their UK restaurants. I may have a soft spot for Danish design, but there's another famous Danish export that I suspect will never make me happy, especially if I have to get up at 4 in the morning to sample it.
One thing I just can't get excited about is a Danish pastry. Stale, greasy pastry, too much sticky icing. There's something about them that just gives me the willies. But then I guess I've never had a Danish pastry in Denmark.
Never mind what I think, Copenhagen has a great reputation for baking. It goes back to 1850, when an influx of bakers from Vienna combined their tradition of folding pastry with the finest Danish butter. I'm meeting head baker Thomas Mathiasen.
What do you call a Danish pastry here? What's the Danish for Danish?
The Danish word is wienerbrød.
Wienerbrød?
Yeah.
That's
Vienna bread.
Vienna bread?
Yeah. It's
so
from
we call it a Danish and you call it a Vienna?
Yeah.
But I still haven't had a good one.
No.
That stops today.
I'll make sure you like it before you go.
Okay.
And the starting point is that gorgeous Danish butter.
And all that butter is going into this dough. And that's the process of lamination.
Yeah.
Like that?
Yes.
And that?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then you will flatten it.
Hard like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Harder.
Harder? You know what? It's actually starting to hurt my hand a little bit.
That's good.
Okay. The rolling machine.
Yeah, rolling
Okay.
table.
So that's up, up,
Down.
down.
Yeah, and stop.
Oh my God! Oh, it almost went off the end.
You go to 15.
15. And as soon as it comes through,
Yeah, stop.
stop! This machine is terrifying.
A few more whizzes through the rollers and it's ready to cut and shape.
You can see all the layers.
Ah, amazing number of layers.
Yeah.
A dollop of custard and the wienerbrød is heading for the oven.
What do you think?
I think they look stunning. But remember, I've never had a good Danish pastry.
Okay.
Never.
That's your first one.
You reckon?
Yeah.
You sure?
That's the real deal.
Okay, here we go. Oh. Huh. It's not just good, it's fantastic. It's a complete revelation. Totally different from anything I've ever tasted before that went by the name of Danish pastry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
I'm delighted to discover that you can find a great Danish pastry in Denmark. But for a long time, this was not somewhere you came for the food, unless you fancied a pickled herring. That changed a few years ago, when one Copenhagen restaurant began attracting gastronomic disciples from all over the world. From 2010 to 2012, it was voted the best restaurant in the world. Its name is Noma. Noma has pioneered a whole movement called New Nordic Cuisine. It's all about Scandinavian ingredients, local, seasonal and wild. The head chef and owner, René Redzepi, is a friend of mine. Like me, he loves foraging, and he finds inspiration for his cooking on the shoreline outside Copenhagen.
So this is normally one of your big wild larders.
If you want to lay here and soak up the sun, it's the wrong place.
There are better places.
There are better places, but for vegetation, it's just incredible.
The wild ingredients René and his team find here will end up on Noma's 180-pound-a-head tasting menu.
This is what we need, those roses. Why don't you grab those?
Yeah. Wild raspberries.
Come on. Yeah, let's grab a few. Remember, try to...
I'm intrigued to hear what it feels like to be head chef of the best restaurant in the world.
Send me in.
I know that for René, with the glory came a lot of pressure.
Suddenly it was as if nothing was good enough, or you stop trusting your instincts. I had almost a year of that. It was horrible, terrible. I was this close of burning out. So once in a while you just need to sort of clear your head, you know, and I did that.
And coming out here still does that for you?
Oh yeah, it's a whole new exploration of the landscape, and we're finding all these forgotten flavors. And we're putting it together in a way that hasn't been done before, because we haven't had that sort of cuisine before.
I know a bit about wild food, but what I don't know is how to put it together Noma style. I am about to learn.
So what I was thinking is a rose and wild raspberry flatbread.
Okay.
We're gonna grill these.
You're going to grill the rose petals?
We're gonna grill the rose petals. Oh, watch out, it's gonna go through.
So during a normal service, when the restaurant's full,
Yeah,
how many chefs do you have actually working?
probably one per guest.
So how many guests?
Around 40.
And 40 chefs?
Around 40
And
chefs.
some of them are down here grilling rose petals.
Oh,
Bollocks! 15 grilled, 5 ash. How's that for a first time?
for the first time, it's okay.
And now for the really testing bit.
Would you mind picking a good handful of flowers here?
Thyme flowers.
Uh-huh.
What, you want individual flowers?
Yes.
Oh, for God's sake. How do I do that with my pudgy, fat fingers? Thing is, if I was doing this at home, I'd just take the thyme stalk and I just strip the leaves off like that. But then I get the odd little bit of stalk, and I don't think that would be good enough for him.
I see stalk.
It's this extraordinary attention to detail that has helped put Noma on the global culinary map.
I'm going for it.
Let's go.
The crisp bread is brushed with kelp stock and squiggled with brown butter
Perfect.
emulsion.
No more. Berries. Just like that. Perfect. The leaves. Beautiful. Spread the roses throughout.
It's one of the 2-bite starters that kick off a 20-course dinner at Noma.
So, I put that on the pass. Does it go?
Yeah, yeah. There you go. I mean, there's a bit too many berries, I would say.
I've got a sweet tooth. Oh,
No, it's very good.
that's so nice.
Very seasonal.
It is essentially
Fruity.
savoury. And then that little bit of sharpie fruitiness.
Yep.
Mine's gone.
So's mine.
Noma's success has spawned a thriving gastronomic scene all over Copenhagen and beyond. Chefs are normally a highly competitive bunch, but here the mood is a bit different and delightfully Danish.
In the restaurant trade in Copenhagen and most of Denmark, there is just a conviviality and a community that I have not seen before. And there is such a helpfulness towards each other. I mean, it's as if most of us knows that the more we do it together, the better it is.
And will you extend that to the whole of Denmark and the way people live here?
It's heard all the time in Denmark. Don't stand out of the norm because the norm is good enough. But then, I mean, it would be nice if there was a little more leeway for say, craziness. A little more craziness. A little more Mexico in Denmark would be good.
I think it's fantastic that Noma exists. It really has been a game changer for high-end cooking, not just in Scandinavia, but all over the world. And what I love about it is that it's put wild food and seasonal ingredients and local produce right back at the heart of the agenda. I think that's brilliant.
The Danish culinary scene is on the up and up. But many people's idea of modern Denmark is defined not by what's on the menu, but what's on the telly. For millions of fans of Nordic noir drama, Copenhagen will always be the dark and chilly city seen in the Danish crime series The Killing. It's been broadcast in 120 countries and quickly earned cult status when it was shown in the UK. The gloomy, wet city, with its corrupt and murderous underbelly, is very different to the Denmark I've experienced so far.
Like so many people back in the UK, and in fact all over the world now, I'm a bit of a sucker for some good Scandi drama. I've been piling through the box sets of Nordic noir. The Killing, obviously. And it certainly gives a bit of edge to being here in Copenhagen, especially when it's dark outside. So I'm wondering, does Denmark really have a dark side? Søren Malling is one of Denmark's most recognisable actors, with central roles in both The Killing and Borgen. When The Killing started to have this extraordinary international recognition, how did you feel about that?
I didn't really realize how big it was. Until once I was in London. I took a cab from some underground station and I stood out the cab, and in 1 minute, especially all the women started yelling and running after me, even slapping me, I mean, like in my butt. I kind of realized I felt like a rock star for 20 seconds. No, I didn't actually. But I mean, I'm not Tom Cruise. I'm only Søren Malling from Denmark.
Why do you think this has happened, A, in Scandinavia, but B, particularly in Denmark, this amazing drama thing that's taken off in the last few years?
I know one thing for certain, that we are not afraid of the dark. I think that a lot of people are afraid of talking about the dark side. But I think a lot of Danes and a lot of people from Scandinavia actually reckon that it is part of our life. So why not talk about it? It's very dark and very melancholic, because we kind of reckon that that is a huge part of being a human being.
So that's really interesting that you think melancholia is something that Danes are very comfortable with, and yet you are voted the happiest nation in the world. So what's happening there?
That is totally bizarre.
But I mean, that's not some joke. That is based on a serious survey by the UN, standard of living, and by a number of parameters of measuring happiness. The Danes come out on top of the world, and yet you do this dark, melancholic drama.
Maybe it's because we are the happiest people in the world, that we actually find time and space to seek into ourselves. But what do you think when you actually take the plane from London and come over here?
Well, you're a lot more cheerful than you are in The Killing. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
If you came to Denmark looking for the dark underbelly of Danish society, or that moody, introspective, angst-ridden behavior that defines so many of the characters in dramas like The Killing, I'm not sure you'd actually find it, because I'm not sure it's really here. But it's very interesting talking to Søren. I think there is something about the Danish that makes them, in a way, a bit more relaxed, a bit more adept at exploring their dark side. And I'm starting to see that being open to discuss things that some people might shy away from is very much part of the Danish character. EuropeanSpermBank.com.
Yes. Yeah, I'm making a delivery to clinics, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And you've got live ammunition on board?
I did. This is my company car.
Oh,
I have this
goodness.
tank with nitrogen in.
Is it too cold to touch?
If you're careful.
Unlike us British blokes, Danish men can donate sperm anonymously, and sales of Danish have rocketed across the world in the last 10 years. One Danish company has been responsible for over 20,000 births. So you get calls from people who are looking for Danish sperm?
Yeah, it could be tall, blonde, blue eyes, athletic type, whatever. Yeah, something like that.
And they can be, how specific are they allowed to be? They can go tall, blonde, blue eyes, athletic, can they?
Yeah, and they can also...
Can they say good at the piano?
They can ask for it, and I can find someone who has that specification.
Well, I don't want to keep you any further because you've got very important work to do.
Bye.
Bye-bye. The demand for Danish sperm is no doubt in part down to the international perception that this is a desirable gene pool. And the best of it seems to be on display at the harbour baths in the centre of the city. Wow, I can't possibly miss this. Copenhagen recently completed a major clean-up of its waterways, and this place has been a summer mecca ever since. Lovely in here. So how high is it?
5.9 meters.
Surely they could have made it 5. I'm not going if it's only 4.9. Suddenly looks like a long way down. These harbour baths were created by a Copenhagener who is, right now, arguably the world's hottest architect. I'm off to see his largest project to date, on my bike, of course. One of the hallmarks of Bjarke Ingels' cutting-edge buildings is that they create and nurture a very Danish sense of community. Built on the outskirts of Copenhagen, the 8 house consists of 500 apartments, houses and offices.
You can see that it's almost like this sort of man-made mountain village of townhouses. The roof of the offices becomes a mountain path that actually allows us to extend the possibility of social life or getting to know your neighbor all the way from the ground floor to the penthouse.
Key to linking these apartments together is a cycle path that runs up and down the building.
So if you're sitting in your garden and your neighbours are sitting in their garden, you're going to be talking to them. There's no two ways about it, really.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to get along.
Yeah, and I really like this idea that even, you know, if a kid is living on the 8th floor, it can actually just stroll down like 2 gardens and play with his neighbor.
Right on cue, Bjarke falls victim to an all-too-common Copenhagen problem.
It's coming out pretty fast, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's monster flat. Jesus Christ.
So we've encountered a bit of classic 8 house good neighbourliness here.
Yeah, exactly. This is totally what it's all about.
Lending a bicycle pump to a complete stranger fits in quite well to that, I would have thought.
Let's see if we can at least reach the summit. Tak for hjælpen.
Everyone loves a view, and Bjarke's design offers up the vast expanse of Denmark's notoriously flat landscape to as many of the apartments as possible.
Oh, this is amazing, because you can see down into the courtyard and you've got the view beyond.
If we would have built 10 stories all the way around, you would never get any sun. But now actually the entire courtyard actually has sunshine. You can see the playground of the kindergarten.
So that V shape in the corner there, that's really important for letting the light in and giving the view out.
Exactly. It's sort of giving away a little bit of real estate, but in order to make the common good so much greater.
Time to let gravity do the work. Bjarke's been described as the rock star of modern architecture, and his designs are currently being built all around the world. Like many Danes, he also has an eye on the environment.
It's a waste-to-energy power plant. And I think it's some of the best examples of what we like to call hedonistic sustainability. Which is
a lot of people think sustainability isn't fun.
Exactly, and it's essentially this idea that sustainability doesn't have to be a downgrade. It doesn't have to be a sacrifice. So the roof becomes a giant public park. It's actually almost 100 meters tall. And in Denmark we have snow, but we don't have the hills to ski them. So essentially it becomes like a giant man-made mountain for skiing at the heart of the city.
A waste-burning power plant that's also a ski slope. That's rockstar architecture.
Was it also motivated by the little touch of jealousy of your Scandinavian neighbours and their lovely high mountains?
I think you can safely say that at least I suffer from a severe case of mountain envy.
Okay.
And you know, rather than just bitching about it, we're actually doing something about it.
Excellent.
Bjarke's buildings brilliantly reflect the Danish philosophy of community and togetherness. But there's a cost to that. Danes pay the highest income tax in Europe. I want to find out if that takes some of the edge off their relentless happiness. The Danes have a word with no obvious English translation that seems to express a particularly Danish idea of happiness. They call it hygge. I'm about to meet a family from the 8 House. Perhaps they can shed some light on what hygge really means and what it's like living in this utopian society.
9 in the elevator.
I'm visiting Anne Elman and Tom Olsen.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Great to meet you.
You too.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Welcome. Good. You?
Can I take
Come
my
on,
shoes off?
yeah,
I'm
sorry
good.
for...
Not at all. I bought you some beers.
Oh,
Thank you.
great. Thanks.
Tom and Anne live in one of the smaller 8 House units with their 2 kids. Tom is a sales manager and Anne works at a local theatre.
The UN survey recently said that Denmark was the happiest country in the world. But do you think that about yourselves?
Yeah, in general, yes.
Yeah.
There are issues constantly because Danes are always complaining as well. It's part of our Danish character. So
More than the British? We're very good at that. One thing we complain about quite a lot in the UK is paying taxes. And most of us, most of the time, think we're paying too much. Do you pay more than 50%?
Yes.
yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'm happy about it. I think for me it makes sense. It makes sense that when you're a child, you get your first your daycare, your kindergarten, your education, school, university, everything for free.
Yeah.
Then you work and you pay taxes. You contribute to the society. When you get old, you get the pension from the state. And when I look at other countries, we're not spoiled, but we are lucky.
And do you think most Danes share that feeling, that you're a lucky country who are getting a lot of it right?
Underneath all the complaining.
Yes, underneath the complaining.
Because I think that's very interesting. I don't think there are many countries in the world that have that self-confidence or that feeling that they've got it right. I think in Britain we think we got it right for a long time and now it's all gone horribly wrong. But one thing I want to get my head round while I'm here is the Danish concept of hygge.
But this is hygge.
Yeah.
Sitting around the table, talking, laughing.
Hygge is an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the atmosphere that we make together.
And when you say goodbye, you say, it's been hyggeligt.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me into your home. And I have, without a doubt, had a hyggeligt time.
You're so welcome. And we had a hyggeligt time as well.
It's rather refreshing to hear people talking about how happy they are to pay their taxes. It's certainly not a conversation you have very often in Britain.
I think it's already clear to me that here in Denmark, things are a bit different. And one of the main differences is that, by and large, Danish people believe in society and they trust the state. And it seems to be that the net result of that is that they're rather happy.
This sense of mutual trust and cooperation keeps coming up in Denmark. So where do these values come from? Where did Danes learn to be such good Danes? Perhaps it's part of their education. To find out, I'm dragging myself away from Copenhagen and heading 100 miles west to the island of Funen to visit what the Danish call an efterskole. At the age of around 16, over 2/3 of Danish teenagers choose to come to one of these boarding schools for a year. The efterskole curriculum is as much about instilling Danish values as academic work. I'm meeting the headmaster, Torben Rasmussen.
It's very important for us that when they come here, they're equal. You can't get your own room if you're rich. You can't get better teachers if you're rich. They are all equal, all of them. And that learns them how democracy works. That each individual has got a point, has got a voice, and are allowed to speak.
So is citizenship at the heart of this education? Is it about becoming a good Dane?
Citizenship is a main character and a major thing.
Is there a risk that this emphasis on equality and mutual respect might be slightly reducing the ambition of the individual to succeed?
Well, I think there is a risk, but looking into many years of developing this kind of school and this kind of equality system, the individual can actually fulfill his or her own dream.
Today is the last day of a summer school for Danish teenagers who live abroad, but who want to keep their connection to the mother country and refresh their Danishness.
I made a mistake volunteering to go on the bottom. Would anyone like to swap with me now? How many layers are we now?
We are almost at the top.
One more on top.
They've had 4 weeks of summer camp, and these young Danes certainly don't seem to be as self-conscious as most teenagers.
Go, bananas! Go, go, bananas! Just remind me where you all come from. Where do you live?
Ottawa, Canada. I live in Cambridge, England.
Canada, Cambridge.
Luxembourg.
Luxembourg.
Istanbul.
Istanbul.
Yeah.
What a spread.
Yeah.
Is there any way of defining what it is to be a Danish teenager? Is it the same everywhere in the world, do you think?
Not be critical of English people, because obviously I live there and I love England, but Danes are a lot more open in a way. Yeah. They're a lot more accepting, and they're a lot easier to get along with, because English people are quite restrictive in certain groups, especially friendship groups. We're just more, comfortable with who we are.
I'm getting this feeling now that Danish people are relaxed with themselves. They've got bigger friendship groups maybe. They're not so obsessed with cool and they're not so cliquey. So what I wonder is why? Why do you think you've managed to pull that off? Or why do you think the mood is a little different here?
I think it's the realistic expectations. When we don't expect too much, then we don't get disappointed, and that makes us more happy, I think.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been finding out a little bit about while I've been here is this idea, this lovely word, hygge, that you have in Denmark.
Yeah.
Is that something that you talk about at your age as teenagers? Is hygge a thing, or is that more of an adult concept?
It's very much a thing. We actually use hygge a lot. Top hygge, just like great.
Top hygge.
Top hygge.
Top hygge. So that's the teenage version of it. And you want to make sure that your last night is
top hygge.
Top hygge.
Top hygge.
I'm sure you'll pull that off.
2, 3, 4, These kids seem so open and easygoing, almost completely lacking in the grumpy angst of your average teenager. You could say that teenagers should be a bit more rebellious, a bit more uncooperative. But this is Denmark, and I'm getting used to the idea that being cooperative and getting along with each other are deeply held values. Being green is also increasingly a core value here. The government recently launched a network of 280 electric car charging stations, the highest per capita in Europe.
I've still got 30% charge, but I just think it might not quite be enough to get me where I want to go. Here we go. Time for a cup of tea.
And there's more to the Danish green dream than electric cars. My final destination is the island of Samsø, where the local community has come together to create an environmental revolution that's got the world's attention.
This is the island of Samsø right ahead, and I wanted to come here for several reasons. One is that it's famous for its produce, particularly fruit and vegetables. But also, and most intriguingly, Samsø has declared itself carbon neutral, so I want to find out a little bit about that.
No doubt it's got something to do with the large number of wind turbines I can see. Samsø is an island of farmers, but in 1997 it won a government competition to receive funding for a range of environmental initiatives. 17 years later, the island burns its own straw to heat its homes, and the communally owned wind turbines produce more electricity than the island can consume. The excess is sold to the national grid, bringing cash to the islanders.
We've got a wind turbine at home, just a small one, and we've got another at River Cottage. And in both cases they provide between a third and a half of all our electricity. So I'm pretty much pro wind farms, but I've never actually visited one close up. These must be the wind turbines I've come to see. And the irony is they're not turning because there's no wind.
I'm meeting Soren Hermansson, a lifelong resident of the island who helped persuade the locals to invest in wind power. With him is Brian Kajer, the chief turbine engineer.
I came to the right place.
Yeah, this is the place.
In the right vehicle.
Right, yeah, that's right.
God, it is high, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a 1 megawatt turbine, and it's about 50 meters to the top,
right,
or to the nacelle.
In the 1980s, Denmark banned the production of nuclear power, and the Danes are now one of the biggest producers of wind turbines in the world.
Right.
Swing your backside over here.
Yeah, so we're at the business end now.
Yeah.
Oh, look. The landscape emerging. Wow. Ha! That is grand. Absolutely stunning. Oh, catching that breeze. Still not quite enough to turn the blades, though, is it? They are controversial, particularly in the UK. A lot of people don't like the look of them. They say they're noisy. Does that mentality even exist here on the island?
I mean, people are also concerned about the environment and the views and the value of the house and all these sort of things. But the difference is the ownership. If it's a neighbor who owns the wind turbines, then it makes a hell of a lot more noise. It kills more birds, it's environmental unfriendly, it's a nuisance.
Whereas if it's your wind turbine?
The noise is like music. I mean, it's like your own daughter rehearsing the violin. It sounds beautiful. and you said that's the whole trick of it. That's if you own it, then it looks good, because it's there for a reason.
Why has this happened here in Denmark, particularly? What is it about Danish society or the Danish character that means renewable energy is a success here?
The community engagement and the co-op organization structure is key to the success of many of these projects here. And I think it's about confidence and trust, that we actually do trust each other.
As the wind slowly picks up, the blades begin to turn.
Wow, she's really going now.
Yeah, starting to pick up the speed. In a moment you can hear the generator kick in.
So one turbine like this operating for a year, how many homes is that going to make electricity for?
This can actually power about 650 homes for a year.
That noise has just come on.
This is when the generator, that's the coolant for the generator.
So that means we're now producing
producing.
The mist has cleared, the wind has picked up, and now we're making electricity.
Yeah.
It's great. Fantastic.
Denmark's rejection of nuclear power means that they still rely on fossil fuels to generate much of their electricity. But they've also become world leaders in renewable energy.
What really impressed me is what Soren was saying, that really this is all about people and attitudes, and to a certain degree, politics. And there's something about this country, and certainly something very special about this island, where people can get together and make things like this happen. And it made me a bit embarrassed about how we're not very good at that in the UK, and particularly on this big issue of renewables. There's been a lot of highfalutin talk from politicians, but in the end, compared to the Danes, we're floundering.
Samsø is also famous for its fresh fruit and veg. The head chef at my lovely Samsø hotel just happens to be a friend of mine, Kasper Gard.
Nice to see you.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
To mark the end of my time in Denmark, we're going to celebrate the Danish spirit of togetherness with a summer barbecue for the local residents.
I want to show you what we're going to eat tonight, meat-wise.
Okay.
Yeah?
We're off to get some meat.
We're off to get some meat.
He's magnificent. What an amazing creature. Half shed, that fleece.
He hasn't lost all of it yet.
He looks like a lion, doesn't he, with a great big mane. Quite friendly. Hello. I bet they're delicious.
They are. They eat herbs. There's wild thyme around here, so the meat gets flavored. Like the Vikings used to bring them along on the boats.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's an ancient breed?
It is, an old breed.
You said we're going to eat one of these tonight. Do you mean one of these actual ones?
It's already been slaughtered.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
So we haven't come here to kill a sheep?
No.
Thank goodness, because I'm not sure I've quite got the heart, because they look so sweet.
Kasper has fully embraced the new Nordic commitment to local seasonal produce. And he has a rather unexpected way of accessing the amazing larder growing around him.
Pull over here.
Yeah, right here?
Yeah, just on the side of the road. There's going to be a lot of stuff in here.
When he sees some tempting produce, he just pulls over and picks it. He'll pay the growers later.
Everyone's talking about new Nordic cuisine.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things I've noticed is just, it's very free, it's very liberated, the way people are cooking, and it's got a sort of playfulness about it that I really like.
It feels a little bit like it's moving away from the traditional French kitchen, and we can actually be proud of having a food culture in Denmark too.
I'm having to fight the bees off to get to these borage flowers, Kasper.
I want some of these flowered tops on the onions.
Red currants.
I want to grab some of these dill flowers, 10, 15 onion flower.
And probably 50 dill heads.
To sort out the payment, Kasper just scribbles an IOU.
Done.
And we head back to his kitchen to start cooking.
Look at that.
That is beautiful. Do you know what? If you showed me that and I hadn't been to see some funny-looking sheep in a field, I would say that's a haunch of venison.
Yeah.
From the colour of the meat and the darkish colour of the fat. That's just going to take up so much good flavour, isn't it?
We're rubbing the tiny onion flowers into the scored surface of the meat.
That already smells of sizzling onions, which is not a bad smell.
And while the meat cooks, Kasper is making a salad from local edible flowers.
Smoked cheese as a dressing, what do you think?
That's beautiful. And what's extraordinary is we pulled half of those ingredients out of your friends and neighbours' gardens this afternoon.
We've invited along some of the people whose produce we've raided, as well as Soren from the Energy Academy.
I had such a great time on the top of your wind turbine.
Oh, you did?
Have you eaten these sort of flowers and leaves before?
No, never.
Never?
What do you call these in English?
Nasturtiums. Nasturtium leaves.
Okay.
In English, I don't know what it is in Danish.
Tallerkensmækker.
That's perfectly cooked, isn't it?
After my short but intense Noma session, I feel I'm getting back to a more relaxed style of cooking, with a hint of new Nordic thrown in. We're serving the local lamb with sieved red currants, scented with lemon verbena.
Wow. It almost looks like it's icing sugar. We're putting
pink icing on the lamb.
With the tart crunch of chopped unripe strawberries and a final allium kick from more of the little white onion flowers.
You're getting that Nordic cuisine in there.
Am I getting it?
You see, you're getting the art of it. You're getting the nature in there. You're getting the color. Everything's pretty. Who doesn't want that on the
Look at
plate?
that!
Look at that! It's amazing.
Oh. Wow, do you think you could make room for one of these? You might have to move the wine bottle a little bit. There we go.
I really love that with the white strawberry.
It's different, isn't it? You like the green potatoes?
Yeah. Good.
I'm from Samsø. Potatoes is, that's what we live from.
I've had an amazing time here in Denmark.
I've done some great things, I've seen some great things, I've tasted some fantastic food, but above all, I've met some brilliant people. I don't know what it is about the Danes, they've just got something. Their instinct is to trust each other, to get along, to support each other. And that's just a little bit rare these days. The world is looking at Denmark and saying, what have these guys got that we haven't? And I'm not sure I can quite put my finger on it, but they have definitely got something. Perhaps the problem is we don't have a word for it and they do. And I guess that word is hygge. Next time, I'll be dropping into Norway. Whoa! Land of fjords and fishing. Blimey. That is just about the most delicious thing I can imagine. Of old traditions.
I'm having dinner with the sheep's head king.
And new wealth. And there's one question I'm dying to ask.
What does the frog say?